So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Patrick Micheli, and I work here at the Secretariat as a consultant for the coordination of the PACE partnership. And I will do a short introduction on what is going on under the Basel Convention, and in particular related to e-waste. And as e-waste is one of the priority waste stream of the Basel Convention. So as I mentioned, e-waste is a priority issue under the Basel Convention, and since 2002. And in 2002, they created the first partnership, which was called Mobile Phone Partnership Initiative, and which is now closed. And then in 2006, they adopted, the parties of the Basel Convention adopted the Nairobi Declaration on ESM of e-waste, and focusing on the theme of creating innovative solutions for the ESM of electronic waste. It was a call for more structure and enhanced efforts towards achieving goals, global solutions for management. Based on this, it was decided to create a new partnership, and also based on the experience from the previous one, MPPI. And the new partnership was the PACE, Partnership for Action and Computing Equipment, and it was launched in 2008. Just to give you a short overview, PACE is a multi-stakeholder forum for government representatives, computer manufacturers and recyclers, international organizations, academia, and environmental groups. There are different ongoing activities, but the main one are aiming to assist the developing countries and countries with economies in transition for the environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment. And these activities are mainly to develop tools and guidelines. We also have ongoing pilot projects and activities for the ESM of used and end-of-life computing equipment. And we are also working on raising awareness and training program activities. And for example, using the webinar platform as today. The main output of PACE will be the guidance document on environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment, which will be a summary of different technical guidelines which were already developed and adopted, or for others that are still under development. For the time being, we have already two guidelines that were approved by the Basel party, one on environmentally sound testing, refurbishment, and repair of used computing equipment, and another one on environmentally sound material recovery and recycling of end-of-life computing equipment. Now, how do we implement ESM of e-waste in the regions? We have different ways of doing so. First, we are working very closely with the different Basel Convention regional centers and to raise awareness in the region, and also to disseminate our guidelines. And they are very involved in strengthening the policy dialogue and provide expertise on ESM of e-waste. Another way is, as I mentioned, different pilot activities and projects we have in different regions of the world. Then we also have different projects developed or implemented by our PACE members at the national and regional level. And we have also different initiatives and publications that are developed by different PACE members, where we are consulted with, for example, ILO today, who did a very interesting and important communication, and which will be the main object of the presentation today. This was a brief overview of the work ongoing under Basel Convention, but you can find more information, of course, on our Basel website. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. So my name is David Seligson, and I'm working at the International Labour Office in the Sector Policies Department, where I'm heading the unit on manufacturing, mining, and energy. And I'm also covering there the electronics industry. We at the ILO, we started to pay attention to e-waste sometime in 2008, 2009. We were involved in PACE since 2010. We also produced an initial working paper named The Global Impact of E-Waste in 2012. And in that working paper, we started to think how to bridge the gap between the formal and the informal. And from that, we then started to work on this paper, which we are talking about today, which is tackling informality in e-waste management. Of course, e-waste is not a new issue, as Patrick just explained, but it has been more discussed as an environmental problem. So, and there's been a lot of focus on exports and exports from industrial countries to developing countries. But there's more and more domestic generation now in developing countries, so e-waste has become a problem in more and more countries. So to understand a bit about e-waste, a bit of background, it is a very fast-growing waste stream. It can be harmful. For example, if you take an old fridge, it can contain CFC. Also, computers and mobile phones, they may look nice and clean outside, but inside they are a cocktail of harmful chemicals. It does create employment. There is a argument that in Africa, if you have 1 ton e-waste per month, it does create 1 green job. And many parts of the recycling, especially the collection part, are very labor intensive. But difficulty is that parts of these of this chain are formal. You have very high-tech plants which recycle, for example, metals, whereas parts of the recycling chain are informal, mainly the collection. So there is a need for innovative approaches to tackle this problem. The picture you see here is from Ghana. So quickly, what are the risks of e-waste recycling? We have e-waste containing a lot of heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants, flame retardants, all kinds of very nasty substances which have their impact on human health and have their impact on the environment. It can be toxic to people, can cause problems for the skin, respiratory tract, And it's important to note that these health effects, they don't only affect people who work directly with e-waste, but also communities close to the e-waste dismantling sites. Because from e-waste, the soil can get contaminated. There are sources for atmospheric pollution and bioaccumulation. And because there are many different chemicals which are not really known, there is what is called a cocktail effect. The scientists might know what 1 or 2 chemicals cause for the human health, but what 50 or 60 of them together do, they are not really aware of. E-waste is something which flows from country to country. This is just an example from one book. A lot of e-waste from North America goes to Africa, also South America, from Europe to Asia. But as I said previously, many countries, first and foremost China, create more than enough of e-waste domestically to cause a problem. So why do we have informal economy so prevalent in e-waste recycling? First, there's a lack of awareness among the consumers. Consumers do not really know what are the hazards in their old appliances, and very often do not know how to recycle them or where to take their old electrical and electronic appliances. There are uncoordinated and also mostly illegal imports of large quantities of e-waste, which then end up in the informal economy. Often there is a deficient infrastructure for managing these e-waste and recycling it properly. In many countries there are regulations in place, but these regulations are not properly implemented. A lot of the e-waste is valuable. For example, mobile phones, they contain fairly high quantities of gold. So a lot of e-waste is profitable, but then a big part of e-waste is harmful. But there are incentives for informal workers to join to extract the profits. But although there are parts of e-waste which are profitable, there are other parts which are not only waste, but they are harmful, and it is fairly expensive to treat them properly. That is also why a lot of e-waste is exported to developing countries. And the problem with e-waste is that it's often very difficult to distinguish what is waste and what is just used equipment. So, for example, you can see in the port of Antwerp, for example, that the poor customs people, they are testing actually computers to see if they are working or not. So if they can be classified as used computers or if they are just waste. One of the problems which has also been seen is that there might be fairly sophisticated recycling plants in countries, We have seen that in Serbia and also in South Africa, but that they lack input. So there is a problem in getting the e-waste from the consumer to the recycling plant. And because we have in this e-waste we have the valuable parts and we have the hazardous parts, there is a problem of so-called cherry picking, where informal recyclers just take these valuable parts and then dump the hazardous parts into the nature. So what can be So let's see, what are the sources of e-waste? By the way, this picture is from Canada. So they get imports of devices for internal consumption. They get illegal imports of secondary and e-waste products, and then they might have domestic manufacturing of electronics. What solutions can we have to these problems on the local level? We can have awareness raising among workers. What are the effects of e-waste processing? Training the workers on environmental sound management and occupational safety and health. The informal recyclers, they also need incentives not to engage in destructive processes, to deliver parts to central collection sites. And the informal sector should be somehow integrated into the formal economy, and that is what my colleague will explain after me. On the international level, we have the procedures of the Basel Convention on Facility-Based Shipment, and that requires some training and also national legislation. We can stimulate two-way flow between developed and developing countries. E-waste, both in countries and internationally, is typically a cross-cutting issue where different agencies, environmental, labor, health, need to cooperate and work together. In many countries, extended producer responsibility has been used as one tool to regulate. And if we go to the manufacturing phase of the material, of the devices, green design, to use less chemicals in manufacturing and to manufacture the devices in a way which makes easy to recycle them, is one solution. So if we look at the e-waste recycling chains, we see that there are formal participants and informal participants. So in generation, we have the formal side, which is manufacturers, retailers, businesses, the government sector. And then we have the importers, who can be both formal and informal. In collection, we have, yes, we do have formal collectors, but most of the collection, especially in developing countries, is done by informal e-waste collectors, waste pickers, scrap dealers. In treatment, we have formal and often very highly sophisticated smelters and recycling companies. But then we have those that dismantle the devices by hand, informal recyclers, disassemblers. So we see that it's a mix of formal and informal. We, in ILO, we have what is called the decent work agenda. Decent work, which has 4 pillars: employment, rights at work, social protection, and social dialogue. So we look at what are the deficits for decent work in e-waste management, and we find that in employment we have the informality, which makes people very vulnerable. The remuneration of in e-waste recycling is very uneven, and the conditions of work are not optimal at all. The working hours are often long, and the workers are exposed to hazardous substances and dangerous working conditions. Some issues with rights at work are the use of child labor, especially in the collection and dismantling phases, the marginalization very often in e-waste and more in general in waste management. Ethnic or religious minorities are overrepresented among the waste workers. If we look at social protection, as e-waste workers mostly are informal, they have very limited access to social protection schemes and no coverage of basic needs, and they're not insured against risks at work. The 4th pillar of decent work, social dialogue, is mostly absent in the informal economy. The workers know very little about the sectoral dynamics, and they are very little organized. So this is the book which we are talking about. The name is Tackling Informality in E-Waste Management, and here is the web address where you can have it. The book also includes some cases from Brazil, from India, from Serbia, and from Bolivia. And I thank you, and I give the floor to my colleague.
Thank you very much. So my name is Valtteri Katajamäki, and I work for the Cooperatives Unit in the International Labour Office. And basically our work is, as the name says, it's related to promoting the cooperative enterprise model in the world. And whereas David was mentioning that he and his team has been working on this issue of e-waste for already quite some years, for us at the cooperatives, from the cooperatives point of view, this is the very first attempt to start discussing about this issue and how to think about how cooperatives could actually be used for formalization of informal e-waste management sector. And in the process, we have of course also noticed that this is a new issue in general. It has not been largely researched or studied in the world before us. So this is a very interesting new topic, and we have found, well, yeah, we think this is the first step towards starting to work more on the issue. When David was mentioning about the decent work deficits in the informal e-waste management sector, we believe that one of the options to tackle these problems is through formalizing into cooperative enterprises. So what I'm going to do here now, I will first start by defining a cooperative enterprise, how we at the ILO understand cooperative, and then we go through the role of co-ops in formalizing the workers in the informal economy, particularly in waste and e-waste management. Waste management, solid waste management is actually something that much more has been done in cooperative enterprises than in e-waste, which is a new topic, as I mentioned. Then I briefly present a case study from India, and then finally I'm going to give some conclusions and recommendations that we found in the process of preparing this publication. So, first, what are cooperative enterprises? As you may know, the International Labour Organization is a standard-setting organization, and it sets international standards on employment and labor issues. And we have one of such standards on cooperatives, the ILO Promotion of Cooperatives Recommendation from 2002, which is basically, it's both it guides ILO's work on how we work on cooperatives, and then it also works as a guidelines for governments throughout the world in how to prepare and how to create favorable policy and legislative framework for cooperative enterprises. And the recommendation gives a legal definition of cooperative as an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. So when we talk about cooperatives, we tend to put the cooperative enterprise because oftentimes the fact that co-ops are enterprises may not be sufficiently emphasized. There are different types of cooperatives, and very roughly we can divide them into three different types. Producer cooperatives, which are probably the most commonly known throughout the world. This includes especially the agricultural co-ops and fishery cooperatives and others as well. And we have the consumer cooperatives, retail, food cooperatives. Grocery stores are very popular here in Switzerland. Two of our biggest supermarket chains are actually cooperatives. And these consumer co-ops, they are also present in healthcare, insurance, housing, credit, all types of sectors. And while these two, producer and consumer cooperatives, while these provide services, then the third one, the worker cooperatives, this is basically a form of co-op that provides jobs for its members. So the members are owners, and they are also the employees, and they jointly decide on major entrepreneurial decisions such as salaries and who are their leaders and how to use the profit, etc., etc. And as I mentioned already, cooperatives are basically present in all economic sectors, from banking and insurance, agricultural, fisheries, health, in industry, retail, housing, all types of sectors. And we have also quite a number of cooperatives in waste management throughout the world. So what is the role of co-ops in formalizing the workers in the informal economy, particularly in the waste sector then? Again, I have divided this into three different categories, and they are often overlapping and like that. But this is kind of trying to simplify the issue. So the first role that cooperatives play in the formalization process is, of course, the political and social role. So this is actually to organize the informal economy workers. Co-ops build social, they are democratic organizations, and they are often said to be schools of democracy. So these are kind of, for many people in many countries, cooperatives is the first time they actually work cooperatively in a group of people, and many other issues such as consultation, negotiation skills, promoting dialogue, these kind of issues come up in cooperatives. Also, cooperatives provide common voice for its members to advocate for more decent standards of work. We often say that the cooperatives provide a collective voice. So, and also we need to think that even though, of course, trade unions are most of the time those who represent workers, they are not always present in all the places, and also not always representing those who are not in formal employment relations. And this also gives people who are participating in cooperatives, it gives them bargaining power and enables them to negotiate better standards and prices for their produce, for instance. And in waste management, we have seen this very clearly in, for instance, on how waste workers and waste pickers, how they have negotiated with municipalities and municipal authorities on services. So they have established collection points, door-to-door services, sorting of waste, different waste streams, and this kind of activities has happened. Also, co-ops promote women's participation and empowerment. As I mentioned in the first point, they are democratic organizations, so every member has an equal say. It's one member, one vote principle that is behind the cooperatives, and this of course gives women an increased role in these organizations. There is evidence from the research showing that women's participation in cooperatives tends to increase overall household and family incomes. Providing for recognition and higher status of the informal workers. This is very clear because when workers join a cooperative, this gives them a new kind of recognition. They become formal workers, they become part of the community. So this is the one that in many countries waste picking has not officially been declared as an occupation, and then when this may happen through joining a cooperative or something like that, then this is of course a rise in a recognition. But this also works. Another way. This also gives them more recognition in eyes of general public, because often waste pickers are considered as they are looked down and are not considered as highly. So this is something that gives them, when they actually start formalizing, this gives them a better recognition there as well. And then finally, there are national, international networks for wider advocacy for waste workers, and there are initiatives such as Global Alliance for Waste Pickers, which advocates for fair and just solutions to waste management, including improved policies in the world. And the ILO, we have a yearly international labor conference, a big meeting where all ILO social partners join. And last year we were talking about formalizing the informal economy in the conference, and there was a big participation of different waste worker alliances throughout the world. Then the second role that we have defined is the economic development role. And as an enterprise, of course, this is an extremely important role for cooperatives. Co-ops provide employment opportunities. They can improve livelihoods and working conditions, especially when it comes to occupational safety and health issues. So as cooperative members can take decisions concerning them, this means that the members of cooperative can have a say on the working hours, for instance, or the division of labor. So the intensity and physical demands of labor can be divided more equally between the workers in the cooperatives. And it also provides the possibility to acquire improved safety equipment, for instance, which is often missing in e-waste workers, for instance, face masks and gloves and this type of materials. Related to this is the increased job security and more regular income. When you are part of a formal organization or of a cooperative, this gives you better opportunities to have regular income, because then you are kind of paid a salary rather than only based on your outputs or your sales to different stakeholders in the e-waste industry. Co-ops pool resources from members, and they also pool risks. So collectively, a group of people can achieve more resources, which again leads to the next point, which is capacity for investments and, for instance, improved quality of equipment needed in the waste management. And this can be done through, for instance, a joint fund or something like that. And as most of you know, e-waste industry has a lot of middlemen involved in the value chain. Actually becomes quite long. So this is also, cooperative is one way of cutting off the value chain to some extent. So it provides a capacity to sell directly to the industry eliminating the middlemen, have a larger quantities of produce, and also improves the bargaining power to negotiate the prices, as we've talked in the first slide. Excuse me. Then finally, the third role for co-ops in formalizing the informal economy workers is the service provision role. Again, this actually kind of overlaps with both of the previous slides, but I just wanted to put this as a separate one because I wanted to highlight the role that it provides. Cooperatives provide services their members. David was talking about lack of social protection, for instance. So this is something that cooperatives can provide, for instance, healthcare, childcare, insurance services to members. And there has been evidence in the solid waste management sector that actually child labor has decreased when cooperative has created a childcare center, because then there has been no need for women. Women make most of the informal waste workers. The women have had no need to take their children with them to the waste sites. So this has meant that there has been less child labor in the industry, and also. Yeah, and then financial, so these are the non-financial services, and then the financial services, finance and credit, these are very important. And oftentimes cooperatives start as a worker cooperative, for instance, but then they may become multi-purpose cooperatives with new types of services that they offer to their members. And then the second point, very importantly, this is also a service to the wider community. Cooperatives in waste management, they often work in sectors where public or private actors are not present. So the waste collection and recycling, this is something that before people just dump their waste in the streets or open dump sites or something, but now there are many examples where cooperatives actually take the role of the waste collectors and recyclers in the community. So this is a service to the community as well. And then at last point, this is also very important for e-waste, because what we have found in our study, and then also what other studies implicate, is that most of the time e-waste cooperatives are actually, they are not separate from the solid waste management and recycling cooperatives. So basically what starts as the recycling of paper or plastic or whatever, then when time goes by, then these cooperatives can start working on e-waste as well and specialize on e-waste. And this is an important role, and this of course requires a lot of capacity building on the specificities of dealing with e-waste, especially as it relates to occupational safety and health and environmental issues. Here is just as an example, the Swatch in Pune, India. This is a mainly women's organization. It started as a trade union and established a cooperative within the trade union with collection, recycling, and disposal services of waste. And they have 9,000 members, 80% of them are women, and they service over 400,000 households in the Pune city and surroundings, which also tells something about the extent that this cooperative reaches out to. Since 2012, they were able to negotiate a contract with the municipality that authorized Swatch to collect and channel e-waste as well. So they cannot process the e-waste, but they can collect it from the households that they are working with. And this, of course, this has seen a big decrease of number of e-waste dumped in the waste sites in Pune. They have achieved improved working conditions, so safety equipment has been acquired for the workers, and uniforms so that people recognize who they are. They have an 8-hour working day instead of the 12 hours they used to work before, and they have access to healthcare and schools for the children of the members of the cooperatives. And since 2008, when the cooperative started working, incomes of the members have more than doubled in this particular case. And this case is often being used as an example for other cities, both in India as well as in other countries, where most of the waste recycling takes place within the informal sector. In India, it has been estimated that 95% of e-waste that is being recycled by the actors in the informal economy. So it tells about the extent and importance of this as well. Then just finally, a couple of conclusions that we found in the study. And as you can see, these are very preliminary conclusions, and we know that there's a lot of work to be done, but at least it's the first step forward. Cooperative enterprises, they carry a great deal of potential to promote organization and formalization of e-waste workers, and we base this conclusion largely to the fact that this has happened in solid waste management, and as many solid waste management organizations as cooperatives work with e-waste as well, or at least has the capacity to diversify into e-waste. Also, as I mentioned, there are only a few well-researched case studies on the role of cooperatives in e-waste management, something that definitely there is more need on. There's a need for better understanding and more evidence-based country-level research as well. As David was mentioning, we did try this a little bit with cases of Serbia and Bolivia, with the results not being horribly encouraging in that we actually couldn't find that many cooperatives that were working with e-waste. So it was more than that. So there is a clear lack of knowledge on the cooperative option. And then also we need to learn, cross-fertilize on the experiences and know-how of countries like India, the case I just mentioned in Swatch, and also Brazil, where there's actually a little bit different approach to the whole e-waste management through cooperatives. There is a waste management law that actually promotes the role of cooperatives and informal sector and informal cooperatives as well to work with the small and medium enterprises and the formal actors of the e-waste chain. And finally, a couple of recommendations. This one is for the national level. In general, cooperatives need to have an enabling policy and legal environment to allow for the development of sustainable e-waste cooperatives. So we have a lack of legislation in many countries. At the same time, there is, on the one hand, there is a need for cooperative legislation. On the other hand, there's a need for improved e-waste management legislation and public policies, and these should be taking into account the cooperative option as well. And then finally, this is basically for the grassroots level, the organization level, training and capacity building needed to ensure e-waste workers' awareness on sound e-waste management, and also about the cooperative option in general. That's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. And also something that David gave the link to the publication, but also if you want to have hard copies of that, please feel free to contact David or myself, and we can send you some of those. Thank you.